Aren't you eating honey? My husband asks, noticing that I'm not reaching for the Christmas dinner his mom made. Yeah, well, it's not like I don't have an appetite. If it's really delicious, I want to dig in just like everyone else. But I know for sure there's got to be some issue with this Christmas feast. No matter how polite I am, I just can't put it in my mouth. My name is Sheila, 40 years old. Old when I slap on tons of facial serum to defy aging. My husband Zach jokingly comments, "It's like prepping a meal," then he cracks up at his own joke. Geez, give me a break. Us women got to put on a lot of skincare to keep up, I'm putting in the effort to stay young for him. He just doesn't get it. This is a story from my 20s when I could sleep with makeup on and still have smooth skin. I had only been married to my husband Zach for a year, and we were still newlywed. I got along great with his parents and even hung out with his sister, just the two of us. My married life was smooth sailing, or so I thought. One afternoon, I was out shopping with my mother-in-law Teresa, who asked me, "Look, Sheila, which one of these do you think suits me better?" She was holding a dress in each hand. One was a navy blue knee-length dress with pearl beads, and the other was a bright pink maxi dress. Honestly, I wasn't feeling either of them. They're both kind of. I thought. That knee-length dress on my 56-year-old mother-in-law, if it suits her regardless of age or if she likes it, then I guess she can wear whatever she wants. But let's be honest, it's not exactly the most flattering color for her. It looked too flashy, probably more suited for young girls. I was pretty sure that Target was for college girls even younger than me. And the shocking pink one, while less revealing, was just too loud with its big floral pattern. Neither were good choices. Well, I guess the navy blue one would complement your skin tone better, I said, but I was worried she'd be shamed wearing it. Not just embarrassed for herself, but embarrassed for the whole family. They lived in a pretty rural area. Wearing something like that would have definitely attracted some attention from the townspeople. So I racked my brain trying to keep the peace. Oh, yes, I grabbed an oven dress and put it against her body. Hey, this one will look great on you too. It was meant as a gesture of goodwill. I really thought the design suited her, but she just furrowed her brows. You mean this dark green? This is some old people's design? Sign. How rude. She glared at me. But the dark green was actually moss green, which was totally in that year. It was a color that could be rocked by anyone from young to older people. Plus, the design was a flowy maxi, not at all the old people's style, as she said. It had this crochet design at the hem, giving it this mature yet sexy vibe. But it just wasn't her thing. In the end, she grabbed the bright pink dress, which was like the most youthful design among the three, and headed to the register. Looking back, it was like a quiz. She already had the right answer in mind, the pink dress. I just ended up giving the wrong answer. She was someone who liked mini skirts and always went for youthful designs. Let's just say that the youthful fashion wasn't exactly flattering on her, who isn't exactly slim and isn't exactly into self-improvement either. I thought it was fine if she liked it, but I kind of regretted giving my honest opinion when she asked me which one of the two. I messed up big time. After that, she started giving me cold shoulders. We used to go out together a few times a month, but those invitations stopped. She was easy to read, so I tried to reach out to her, but going out with you is exhausting, she declined. I felt like there was no way to mend things. I debated apologizing for the dress incident, but that felt disrespectful too. I was stuck on how to handle it. When I talked to Zach about it, he said, "Well, I kind of had my doubts about her fashion choices too, so it's good you gave an objective opinion." He actually seemed relieved. I was hoping for advice on how to reconcile, but that wasn't the case. In the midst of all that, we decided to visit my in-laws for Christmas. Back when things were good between us, I'd have gone without a second thought. After months of tension with Teresa, I was dreading it. However, when we arrived, they were so happy to see us. Jane looked genuinely excited to see us. "Hey, welcome back." My father-in-law, Corey, warmly welcomed us too. Teresa acted like nothing was wrong, saying, "It's been a while, just like always." I thought, phew, maybe time did heal things. But peace didn't last long. The incident happened that very night. As soon as I took a bite of the dinner Teresa made, I tasted an intense soreness. I started coughing uncontrollably. "What's wrong? Did you get the food down in your windpipe?" Jane rubbed my back, and Zach handed me water. Even Corey was like, "Take a deep breath," all worried. Teresa exclaimed, "Oh no," but the moment I glanced up, I didn't miss it. I caught a glimpse of a smirk on her lips. Everyone asked what was wrong, but I wondered if I should be honest about it. I worried about sounding like I was criticizing her cooking, but I couldn't just keep quiet either. Screw it, I thought. "Oh well, this dressing is very sour," I confessed. Zach was surprised and grabbed some spinach from my plate and tasted it, only to start coughing from the soreness too. While he was choking, Teresa cracked up. "Oh my, did I put oil and vinegar? Oh my bad." "But you didn't make a separate one just for me, did you? Normally you make everyone together and then dish it out, right? It must be deliberate, isn't it?" I couldn't say for sure, but the way she smirked said it all. The family members protested to her, saying, "Come on, taste it before serving." She just repeated, "Sorry," and didn't seem to be bothered. Other than that, there wasn't any harassment, but every time we visited, she would mess with my food. My salad would have lots of tomato stems, the stew would have onion skins, and scrambled eggs would have pieces of shells. She probably developed those other forms of harassment after being scolded to check the tasting for mixing too much vinegar. Every time she'd say, "Oops, I messed up when I was dishing it out," I'd get it. "Yes, your plate got the weird stuff." Sneakily adding something that wouldn't cause any immediate problems is pretty nasty. I might have been thinking too much, but the taste wasn't even good. Sometimes there'd be chunks of barely edible parts of vegetables mixed into the soup. I thought she was going a bit too far. I tried to keep my complaints to a minimum, though. I hate conflict. But then, whenever I pointed it out, "Why do you get mad at me over such a minor mistake? I just want to get along with you, but you're being so difficult," she played the victim card. Didn't the family help me out? Of course they did. Zach reminded her to be more careful with the cooking. Jane and Corey also warned her. But when everyone sided with me, she'd start fake crying, so they gradually stopped intervening. It just made things awkward, and I didn't want to keep reporting it to them every time. So I quietly picked out the peels and shells and ate the food. I'll endure it as long as there is no other harassment. I'll treat myself to a feast at home later. This went on for about 2 years. Then came Christmas, which was different from usual. Instead of just our family, it was one of those rare occasions when relatives gathered. Nearly 20 people were at my in-laws, and it was bustling for the morning. Amidst it all, Teresa was humming as she prepared the feast in the kitchen. When I quietly observed her, she seemed even more cheerful than usual. I didn't like to think that way, but it was creepy. Normally, as the daughter-in-law, I should have helped with the cooking, but I generally didn't help out in the kitchen. That was because the one time I offered, I was strongly discouraged. Well, no wonder. If I was around, she couldn't sabotage my food. I wonder if she'll mess with my portion of food, but it's not like she's serving individually. If we're all sharing from the same plate, maybe she won't. Huh. I don't know. It's still scary feeling uneasy despite a festive holiday. I joined them for lunch. The feast on the table looked normal. There didn't seem to be any vegetable peels like usual. As everyone started reaching for food, I just stared at them. Aren't you eating, honey? Feeling sick? Zach peeked at me with concern. Jane, sitting diagonally across from me, showed concern and asked, "Oh no, are you okay?" Yeah, well, sensing that I wanted to say something, they both stopped eating. Before I knew it, I blurted out the forbidden words. Well, because my food always gets tampered with. It doesn't look messed with on the surface today, so I'm scared it might taste awful. Hey, don't say that. You can't say the truth, Sheila? They panicked at my comment. What's going on? They must have noticed my food getting tampered with, right? It's always been like that, so they shouldn't be freaking out now. Mom can't cook. If we tell the truth, it'll just upset her, huh? I'm left dumbfounded, looking at the flustered Jane. Teresa standing right behind her, her face pale and trembling. Shoot, Mom. Zach was speechless. Then Teresa exploded. You disrespectful kids. Saying I can't cook? Fine, I won't feed you anymore. Well, honestly, it's better if you don't, Zap said, seemingly resigned. Yeah, especially when we have guests over. We can just order in or something. Jane chimed in, agreeing. While I was stunned, Corey enlightened me. You see, Teresa, she's catastrophically bad at cooking. We even had a big fight once, and she stormed out of the house. Apparently, she had a unique sense of flavor and was completely oblivious to it. It was even worse back when Zach was a child, because she tried to get creative while Corey silently endured it out of kindness. The kids couldn't take it. It was when they demanded better food that Teresa stormed out for a week. They managed to coax her back somehow, but it took a lot of apologizing from everyone. Since then, the food had improved somewhat, with everyone praising her and gently discouraging her from making any adjustments. Still, judging from her smirk whenever I removed peels and shells from my food, she must have intentionally added them. But I thought it was just another form of harassment. Bad-tasting dishes were unaltered. Since everyone else was eating the same kind of bad food, they didn't think I was being targeted. Apparently, it wasn't uncommon for vegetable peels or eggshells to end up in dishes back then, and everyone just thought she made a mistake, as she had to cook more food than usual. Finally, it all made sense. No wonder they didn't realize I was being harassed. There was a more fundamental issue at play. I was grateful that they warned her for me, even though it might have angered her. I remembered mentioning to Zach that I felt like I was being harassed by Teresa, but my concerns were dismissed as overthinking. At that time, I thought he wasn't reliable, but maybe he was just thinking, "You're overthinking it. Her food has always been bad." Watching the family drama unfold, the relatives chuckled, saying we couldn't mention it, but it looks like everyone was thinking the same thing. With alcohol fueling their words, they were quite blunt. Teresa's face turned beet red as she went insane. So, you've all been thinking my cooking is bad all this time? No one answered her question, avoiding eye contact. The silence spoke volumes. It's not true, right? It's not bad, right, Sheila? Sheila's dishes were just slightly altered. Her food was intentionally bad, but my usual cooking should be good. Come on, guys, say something. She shouted, her voice getting louder, but everyone just kept their heads down, sipping their drinks in silence. It felt more like a funeral than Christmas. More importantly, in her agitation, she inadvertently confessed to sabotaging my food. Maybe your taste buds are beyond saving, but seriously, stop dressing like a teenager. Maybe try looking at yourself objectively, Mom. Indeed, you should realize you're being laughed at by the neighbors. Jane added more to Zach's comments. Inside, they only fueled the fire, and Teresa's face turned dark red. Who gave you birth? What did you just say to your mother? No, it's not about that anymore. There are things you could and should say to your parents. Zach's words were met with nods from Jane and a troubled expression from Corey. You guys are mocking me. I'm still in my 50s, still young. Stop treating me like an old lady. Again, it's not about that. Geez, you're so hard-headed. I don't want to nitpick your fashion choices, but maybe think about toning it down a bit. Zach let out a big sigh. The relatives seemed to agree, laughing awkwardly. What's the matter with you, and she treating me like an old lady? As the furious Teresa angrily stomped her right foot on the ground, Corey quietly approached and said, anyway, apologized to Sheila for harassing her. If she stayed silent, it would have been dismissed as the usual crappy cooking. There was no way to hide the fact that she tampered with my food. Teresa seemed to realize she slipped up just then, and her face turned from red to white as a sheet in a second. It was just a mistake, she stammered. Whether it was a mistake or not, it doesn't change the fact that you did something wrong. Why on earth did you resort to such harassment? Well, it's probably because of that, right? Sheila suggested. You wear more mature clothes or something. Of course, she would. Flashy clothes just don't suit you, you know. That's what they call overreacting. Unable to protest, Teresa remained pale, looking down. Corey sighed again, saying, geez, just for that. At that moment, she erupted. What do you mean just for that? No matter how close we are, I'm still her mother-in-law. Treating me like an old lady is just rude. She didn't treat you like an old lady. She just suggested what might suit you. That's definitely not what she meant. She was looking down on me, thinking young fashion doesn't suit me. I'm not apologizing to her, she pouted childishly, turning away in defiance. Needless to say, everyone was exasperated by her immature behavior. In the end, feeling uncomfortable, the relatives quietly left that day. We also decided to cancel our stay and return home on January 3rd. Corey called and dropped the bombshell out of the blue. Teresa and I are separating. After that incident, he had a long, earnest conversation with the unrepentant Teresa, hoping to make her see reason. But instead of admitting her fault, she became even more defiant, accusing him of being cold and not measuring up to a good husband's standards. That was the straw for the usually gentle guy, and they ended up deciding to live separately. It took about half a year for Teresa to finally reflect on her actions. When she came to apologize to me, she also asked if we could help patch things up between her and Corey. If you're only apologizing to her to get on Dad's good side, then forget it. We won't help, and we won't forgive you. Zach shut her down immediately. She tried enlisting Jane's help too. I doubt he'll change his mind, 'cause he's really furious. You two should try to work it out yourselves. She was met with a firm refusal. In the end, she was left isolated and couldn't change Corey's mind. About half a year later, they finalized their divorce. Her luck must have run out by upsetting Corey, who cherished her despite her bad cooking. With no savings as a stay-at-home wife, she tried to rely on Jane. But around the same time as her divorce, Jane got married and refused to live with her, as her husband didn't like the idea. Well, I guess that's understandable. As for us, Zach was still mad at her, so we didn't take her in. Currently, she's living with her younger sister, with whom she's had a bad relationship since childhood. She's been given what can only be described as a leaky, drafty shed, not a proper room. I feel a bit sorry for her, but like they say, what goes around comes around. On the other hand, I've given birth to 2 kids and have been working on toning up my post-pregnancy body with home workouts. I've been doing jump rope with the kids, and let me tell you, they have endless energy. Playing with them has naturally helped me shed some weight. Now I'm just focusing on firming up my face with some serum. Zach has been consistently a loving husband since then. On weekends, he takes us hiking, and sometimes when he manages to get a weekday off, we sneak in a date while the kids are out. It feels a little awkward and embarrassing to go on dates nowadays, but it's still nice to be treated like a woman. I hope we can continue holding hands and going for walks together, no matter how old we get.